And this is just the 4-H fly fishing kind of beginning class today. If we were able to meet, we'd be on the river, either the Logan River or something like that. But we're going to go ahead and get started. I kind of have a itinerary, and if everybody that's on today, if they remember between now and next meeting, which is next Wednesday, if they get on and put a picture of themselves or something on Instagram, it's Utah 4-H Shooting Sports USU, and that's our Instagram page. If they put a picture on there, just kind of you and your fishing or by the river or something, or anything with your gear, your fly rod in your backyard, if you put a picture on there, I'll do a drawing next Wednesday for a dozen flies that are really good. So if you put just a picture on the Instagram page, and I think it's let me type it in here. So you can do it. Hey
Blake, can you say that again? You kind of broke up.
Okay.
You broke up kind of bad when you were explaining what you were doing.
Okay. We're just gonna, if anybody on today, if they do an Instagram picture on our Instagram site, and I'm just typing that in the chat, between now and next week, then we're gonna do a drawing for a dozen flies to somebody who, and we'll just do a drawing for that. So that'll be pretty fun. So somebody will start off with a good set of flies. So I'm gonna put that sports, let's see. It's Utah 4-H Shooting Sports, USU. So I just put that in the chat. Did everybody see that? Everybody nod their head if they can. They saw that in the chat.
Yep.
Okay. So if you just go on there and follow, there are going to be a ton of tips on there that I'm going to put on with this, but then we'll do drawings and stuff. So that'll be kind of fun. So probably the first thing, who has fished before? Fly fish. I imagine you all fished before, but maybe not fly fish. Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah, so this, when I started, I think I was in high school. My brother-in-law gave me for my birthday, a fly tying kit. And he doesn't show me anything anymore because he showed me how to play guitar, and then I ended up doing a lot better than him. And then he gave me a fly tying kit. Then I ended up being a guide up in Montana for about 7 years and selling high drift boats for about 7 years. So he doesn't tell me things to do because I always do over and beyond what he does. But anyway, today we are just going to talk about the gear that you need and just some things that I, over the years that I've guided and fished that I've learned. And so I wish I would have learned this when I was, 12 or 13 or something like that, because then it wouldn't took me, 5-6 years to learn it all. So we're going to go over, I've got just a list here, and I'll send you this list, and so if you don't want to take notes or anything, I will send you a list of all the things that I talk about. And then I have a couple of books this is the Beginner Fly Fishing Manual. That might be backwards, and then another that talks about leaders. And so, and I'll send you both on these up on your email. And so they're just real basic, but let's go ahead and get started. The first thing, who has a fly rod? And you just raise your hand. Anybody? Okay, so you got fly rods, and you guys, so on the fly rods, and I'm going to bring a couple up here. Let's see. So I've got different kinds of fly rods. The kind of the average fly rod for beginners to start out would be like a 5-weight. Does everybody know what a 5-weight is? They have anywhere from a 1-weight, which is a really lightweight, clear up to a 12 to 15 weight, which is like a heavy steelhead or salmon rod. But the best rod for all around fishing small streams would be let's see, that one's a 7-weight. So I'll show you this one. So on the side, on the rod here, it'll have information, and you might not be able to see it, but it'll somewhere it'll say 5 line, number 5 line, or 5-weight. So this is a 5. This is a 7-weight. So you probably see that 7-weight, 9-foot 4-piece. So any more, and pretty much any rod right now, you can get a rod on Amazon and a whole kit with a reel and line and a bunch of different accessories for about $90. And it's a really good one. Back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, you had to spend about $500 to get a really, really good rod, and they made okay rods, but now everybody's making about the same kind. So pick a rod. It doesn't really matter. And then when you get better, you can kind of get into the little higher end ones. But I fish with this one most of the time. It's a Trout Fork Outfitter. And it was only about $150. And I fish with that on the Madison River and catch, you know, all kinds of fish up there. And then at home I use, and then there's, how many have grandpas that used to fish and have one of these? Kind of a bamboo rod. You got one? Okay. These are, some of the times you don't want to fish with these if it's your grandpa's old rod, because they might be brittle and break. And so this one I made, so you can kind of see my name on there a little bit. I made about 15 rods right from scratch. So I bought the bamboo, planed them down and made blanks, and then go ahead and put the cork on them, everything like that. So it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. It took about 40 hours for each rod to make. I made about 15 of them, and then I said, I'm done. And then I could go fishing more instead of making rods. So that helps. So anybody have any questions about rods? 9 foot is a pretty good one, is average. 7.5 foot if you're just fishing small streams. But you can go with a 9 foot and do pretty good, say on the Logan, on the smaller streams, but then go, you know, even go up to the Madison and do pretty good with a 5 weight. So you guys understand about that? Or everybody good with that? So if you don't have one, if you have a 3 or 4 or a 5 or 6, you're probably pretty good, but a 5 is about what you want for average. And so that works.
Do you have any specific ones on Amazon that you recommend?
Yeah, there was one. Let me see. Let's see. There's called Wild Water, and it's a kit. If you type in fly rod and reel combos, Wild Water, and I just bought 6 of them for the state, and we've used them, and I've fished with them, and they work really well. I think it was $94 for a kit, or a rod, a reel, backing, line, and a case. And so it was pretty nice. It's I think it's a 4-piece. It might have been it's got to be a 4-piece, so it's small. But really nice rod. So Wild Water. Just type in Wild Water, and that you'll see that kit.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions on rods? Okay. And if you have a question if you remember one, just raise your hand or go ahead and give me a holler. Next, we're going to talk about reels. So the reels, I've got several. So the reels are depending on, so if you buy the combo, they're going to give you the right reel for the combo. But if you buy a rod separate and a reel separate, the reels, if you can see right there, that's a 3-4. And then that one is a 5-6. So if you buy a 5-weight rod, buy a 5 or 5-6 reel, because you don't want a 7. This is my big Ross reel that I go on. It's goes on my 7-weight, so it's a 7-weight. So I don't want to put this on a smaller rod. I mean, you could, but wouldn't be balanced or anything like that. So anytime you do a reel, and the only thing you really want to do on a reel is make sure. So see this, I'll get comparing. Can you guys see this pretty good? There we go. So this has a little drag system on it right here with a little knob. If you can find one, and most of them have them, even the ones that like on that combo that I tell you. So this one has a tiny drag, I guess, mechanism, and this one has a large one, and so you can adjust it as you're fishing. So, and what a drag does, all it does is slow down the fish. So I'll pull that down. So when it's pulling out, it gives resistance on your line, so it just doesn't come out a whole bunch, because if it comes out really quick, it's going to the line's going to back in your line and kind of make a bird's nest, and then it's going to make a mess, and then you're going to break off. And so what you want to do is just make sure you have a pretty good drag. There are some reels, the ones that you buy on that Wild Water or any reel, but if you have no back pressure when you're pulling the line out or any way to adjust that, that's going to be kind of tough, because it'll kind of mess you up as far as fishing. So what you need, and on the Instagram that I do, so if you follow me and put your picture on there and follow, I'll show you how that works on an actual fish and kind of just showing you kind of out on the lawn or something. So on the reels, you just want something that has a little bit of drag and you can adjust it quick. So I could be on a fish like just right there. So I could be on a fish, it could be pulling out and I could adjust this. But normally if you're on a small stream, you adjust it once and you're okay. And on a big river, you adjust it once for bigger fish, then you're okay. Reels, like you say, if you buy the kit, it comes with a really good reel, and then you can kind of go up from there if you want. There's lots of different reels. They can go up to, $500, but you don't need that to fish, unless you're going deep sea fishing and all that stuff. But you can find one on Facebook or different things, or anywhere for about $40 or $50 and be pretty good for a small reel. Any questions on reels? Okay, let's go fly lines. On the fly lines in this, let's see. The fly lines that I like, there's 2 or 3 different kinds of fly lines. There's one that's called double taper. And what double taper is, and I'll show you that. I'll send you this book. But a double taper is where it's fat in the middle and skinny. It goes skinnier on the ends. And so what happens is when you wind that on the reel, the line goes skinnier, so it's a pretty smooth presentation. And then when you get done with that, it kind of gets beat up after you fish it for a long, like 5 or 6 years. You can turn it around, take it all the way off and put it on backwards and use it again. And so you'll just use the other end. And so that'll be all brand new. So you can kind of get 2 fly lines out of one. And that makes it, and they're a pretty good fly line. You want to get a pretty good one, because if you don't, then it won't float very well. And then it'll sink, and then you get a lot of drag if you're dry flying. So they're about $40 or $50. But if you buy that kit, it's already on there, so you don't have to worry about it. But we're just trying to tell you on what types to use. Then there's also let me look right here real quick. Okay, I'm just checking things out here. I have to change my view here. Let's see. And let's see. So the other line is called a weight forward, and that's kind of what it means. It's a weight forward. So a lot of the weight is actually in the tip of the line. So what happens is if you get 10 or 15 feet out of the tip of the rod, and then when you cast, there's going to be more weight in that the line and so it'll help you cast a little better. So I would, for a beginner, I would suggest double taper is really good, but I would suggest also the weight forward. So it'll have on the box, it'll have WF, which is weight forward, and then the weight of the line, 5, 6, whatever, and then it'll have floating. So if you get a weight forward 5 sinking, that's going to be sinking. That's for lakes and different things. So you want a floating for your small streams. And then let's see. I'm just going to check on this real quick. I just have to take a couple of these off. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. And then let's see, let's go. So that's the fly lines. Any questions about that? Okay. I'm just, let's see.
Quick question for you.
Okay.
If you have, say you've got a weight forward line and one that floats, and then you also have a sinking line, do you put those, is it better just to have 2 separate reels so you're not having to restring the reels all the time?
Yeah, because normally it takes quite a bit of time to, just put the other one on. So if you have another reel, just put it on there and make that your sinking line. And then you just have to change the reels instead of the lines.
Right.
So that makes it work really well. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just trying to get this video to work. There we go. And so Let's see. Let's look over. Nets are pretty important when you start out. And I've got one. I've got one here, just a little one. If you have a net, what that does is help you take the fly off and control, or the fish, and control it in the water. Normally, if you see a lot of people that catch a fish, they pull it up on the bank, try to get the hook out. 5 or 10 minutes later, the fish is probably, it's not used to breathing air, and so when you put it back in the water, it'll probably die. And so a net, you can have it in the net and keep it in the water, so it's always in the water instead of out. And then if you take a picture of the fish or something, right before you take the picture of the fish, then raise it up, take a picture, and then put it back down. Put it back in the water, and then you can kind of manipulate it. The nets, if you can get a rubber net, this one's kind of a cloth, really hard to get out the flies out. So if you get a fly hooked in here, it probably take you 5-10 minutes sometimes to get the hook out of the net. So if you can get one with a kind of a rubberized net, that works really well because it's a little stiffer, and then it's just easier to get out. So that's just one thing. And when I was guiding, we just had a big rubber net, and it might be unstable, but the big rubber net just made it so you get the fish out easier and just kind of hold it there, kind of like a little pot, and it'll kind of just sit there, and then you can let that fish go easier. So the nets are good. You can usually just wrap that around. I just have a little string, and I just put it around kind of around my shoulder, and you can put it on like a bungee cord, but I just put it and then I just take it off when I need it, because if it's a small fish, you can kind of handle it without a net, but if it's a bigger one, it just helps to land it a little bit better. Let's see. Let's look, and we're going to do knots on another Zoom meeting. So we'll learn to do the knots on the reel, the fly line, the leader, the tippet, and on the fly. So that'll be in this book too. Let's see. All the flies, and I'll send you this probably tomorrow or the next day. But all the knots will be in here, and the main key on the knots is practice them at home while you're watching a movie or something. Tie it 100 times, because if you're on the river trying to tie a knot that you don't know how to tie, and the fish are jumping and you're losing daylight, then it's really frustrating. So learn how to tie the knots. Just get a whole bunch of them, even if you have to do with paracord for a little while, and just kind of get your fingers used to muscle memory, and just learn how to tie a fly on. I can tie a fly on in about 20 seconds. If I can get it through the eye, then I'm good to go. But then you're not sitting out there all day trying to tie a knot in the water. Watch out, pups. Yeah. There's a puppy in there. So we'll do the knots. A waiting staff. How many people know what a tripod is? Like for a camera. How many legs does it have? Hold up. How many legs? 3. How come it has 3? What if it had just 2? It would probably fall over a lot, huh? You got a monopod is 1, bipod is 2, but then it'd fall over. But if you're wading in a pretty good sized river, you never want to go somewhere you're not comfortable with. But that third stick, I think I've got one right. So I just went out and I've got just this a scout stick that I had, and I just drilled a hole in it and then just tied a kind of a bungee cord or a clip to my belt, and then I can just sit there and you can wade a lot better. You won't fall down, and a lot of times a lot of people have broken their rods because they fall down and try to grab themselves, and things all go south when you're falling in the water. I've done it a couple times. So that's a wading stick is really important. Okay, here's an important one. All right, who knows what this is here? This is so my boy tied these when he was like 4 years old, so they're not the best flies. But here's an example of one, and they're fly boxes. We're going to talk about fly boxes. Here's a pretty nice one. It's kind of a show piece. I can put my nice ones in. Does anybody know what a chainsaw fly is? Chainsaw fly. That's a fly that took you about a half hour to tie, and you get it in a tree. So you bring your chainsaw along, cut the tree down to get your fly because you don't want to lose it. That's a chainsaw fly. So just to let you know. The best, what happens with these is you kind of have to put your rod under your arm. You have to open this up. You kind of have to hold it with one hand, try to get the other one out, put the other one in, and a lot of times this is what happens. That drops, and guess where it goes? Right down the river, and sometimes you can't catch it. So it's very hard to. So what I've done, and I've lost a whole box of flies worth, you know, a couple $100, and so I've kind of got a something that straps to your chest. And this is a kind of a nice one, but they have a lot of different products. But anything, they have chest packs. They have, and you can even make something. You could even do this and then have some, like they have the little lanyard on the end of it. Just you could just have it tied to you so it doesn't fall off. So, you know, if you go to the store or you tie flies and you have your fly box and you drop it for some reason, you slip or something, and there goes all your flies. So you're kind of mad, and you tend to break things. But anything that straps to your chest, this one actually goes up over and kind of attaches. So it'll attach up here and just kind of sit there, but I can open it up. I'll stand up a little bit. So I can open it up, and it has a little tray. So it attached to me, so I can have both. I don't have it hooked. Let me see if I can hook it. I'll just hook it real quick. So it kind of just hooks there, and it hooks there and stays there, and I'll just hold it here. But what you do is you have a tray, so you can grab a fly out of there, and you can grab a fly and you can drop it in there and then just shut it, and then you're good to go. And it has 3 different, so I have different ones. So this holds a lot of bigger flies. You can probably see that. So that holds a bunch of flies, and you can just go like that, and then it goes another one. And you can just get one of these too, or you can just make one, but that has a bunch of different flies in there. So it holds, it's really simple. So it holds a lot of flies, and then you can hold other stuff like split shot, or this is the floating that I use. So it just holds a ton of flies, and then you go back to fishing. You don't have to worry about putting it back in your pocket or anything. So anything like that is really helpful. Anything that attaches to you is very helpful, because you sometimes spend a lot of time getting flies and you don't want to drop them in the river. And so let's see, any questions on fly boxes? And you can, so I just got another bag that goes over my shoulder, and that's one thing that you can do. So you don't need a fancy fly box or a fancy fishing vest. You can just have just a pouch or a bag that you can put over, but just make sure your fly box is tied to this, maybe on a string. And so if you do fall, it just goes on the string, you just grab it. So that's the main thing, because even on a smaller river, you can't really run down the river to catch your fly box. And then we'll talk about flies on another, or let's see, I'll put that there, on our other one. And let's see, wading boots, I think. I've got my shoes, yeah. So wading boots can be anything. Just anything with a felt bottom is really good depending on the river. A lot of guys will just put sneakers on and go wet wading, just in a pair of pants or something. If the river's real small and it's not freezing, you can just go that route. Let me put that up kind of in my face. So wading boots, I looked online. I looked at DI, Facebook. I got my boy some for $12. And they were his size. So if you just kind of look, you can get some, but they're really helpful on rivers that have a lot of big rocks, because they kind of grip on it. And so the wading boots are real good. Hip waders, like any of you move pipe? The hip waders are good. So the green hip waders you get at IFA or Cal Ranch or something, they're good. They're a little slick, depending on if it's a mud bottom or something, it's not too bad. But anything like that you can wear. And if it's warm, I just put my waders and shoes on and don't have any waders. Waders are good just to keep warm. The only thing you want to watch out on waders, if you're in deep water, or normally you wouldn't be in deep water, you just don't want to fall down and you want to have a belt around the waders to kind of keep that water from filling up your waders. So just a safety thing. If it's on a small river, that's only knee deep, you fall down, you just get back up and you don't worry about it. But if you're on a big river, which, start out in small rivers, that'd be fun. Just to make sure. And then let's see. And then how many people have one of the most important things when fly fishing is, this one's broken, but, and then I've got some clip-on ones. So polarized glasses. If you haven't been fishing with polarized glasses, they're you can buy some for $5 at Walmart or online, but you can actually see into the water, and it takes a lot of glare off the water. So it's kind of fun. My boy, I had some extra for him, and I said, okay, look at the water now, and then take your polarized off, and it just like night and day. You can't really see you can see into the water if you have polarized. These are kind of an amber color. They have gray, they have darker. The amber color makes it so in the evening, it's not dark. Anytime you have a dark colored polarized glass, it looks like it's almost night and you're still fishing, and then you take them off, and you're like, whoa, it's still light outside. So the amber ones I really like. There's a kind of, this one's a yellow, but then they have an amber one that are lighter. They still polarized, but they make everything brighter, and you can fish longer, and it doesn't seem so dark. So, and I have just clip-on ones that just go right on my glasses right there. The ones with the corner glass is when the sun coming to the side of your eye and you're trying to fish, it blocks that out too. So it makes it just that much better. You don't get any sun in the side. So if you can get some like this, and I think these were like $5, but I got to go buy some more because I think I stepped on them. So, but that's all right. Any questions on glasses? Who stepped on glasses? Anybody? No. Let's see. Also for safety, you always want to wear glasses no matter what, okay? Because if a fly comes back and, it might hit you in the cheek or something, but if it hits you in the eye, you'll have glasses to be safe. And there was one thing on the radio. It said, what is the most dangerous or most accident type of sport there is? And a lot of people say, oh, it's skydiving, it's rock climbing. Nope, it's fishing. Because there's more people that fish, there's a larger number of people that fish on boating and stuff like that. So there's boat accidents, wave runner accidents, hooks, and how many people's got a hook in their shoulder or back of their head or anything like that. So that's what helps. So glasses, and also a hat. A hat like this is okay, but your ears are exposed for sun, because you're going to be sun and the water's going to be glaring. So I usually have a big brimmed hat. I've got a big cowboy hat. I've got a couple different fishing hats that I can actually dip in the water when it's hot and then just put on my head, cools you off and keeps the sun off your face. And so that really helps. So a hat's awesome. Clothing, let's see. So if I were fishing and I had this hat on, which hat do you think would be the best one to wear fishing? Probably this one, or a darker one, or kind of one I have here. This one, the fish, you can kind of sneak up on them, but they'll actually see if you're on the bank of the river and you're moving and you have a white shirt on or a really bright shirt, they can actually see you, and then what they'll do is what's called turn off, and they won't eat for a while because something's kind of bugging them a little bit. But if you have kind of a color, kind of a drab color shirt on and a drab hat, and you're moving slowly and quietly through the water, you're going to catch a lot more fish. Oh, my connection's a little bit unstable. Can you guys still hear me good? Thumbs up. It might be coming. There we go. The connection's a little bad. Anybody? I'll wait till it comes back on.
Connection's good.
Okay. So clothing, let's see. Let me look here. Oh yeah. So also on your backpack, your pack or anything that you carry along, you want two things for sure. You want a pair of, I just go get some clippers, some fingernail clippers, and I put it on one of these drawstrings. And this one's kind of a heavy duty one, but you can put it on a bungee cord or anything. That's going to be when you tie a leader on or a fly on, you want to cut the tag end off. They have kind of special little nippers and stuff, but I just buy these at the grocery store. They seem to last forever. The other ones are a little bit smaller, so they might be good. But then you also need a set of hemostats. And what happens in fly fishing sometimes, a lot of the flies will catch right in the mouth or right outside the mouth, but some of them will go down the mouth. And so what you want to be able to do is not put your fingers down there, but put this down there, grab the bend of the hook and twist, and that'll come right out. And so, and I think you can get these at like Smith & Edwards for $1, you know, right when you walk in at those, on those tables, they have a whole jar full of them. But you want to have something that retracts or anything like that, so you can get to the fish and then let go, and then it'll come back. It'll come back, and then you won't lose it, and then you always have it. And so a lot of times so it doesn't swing around, I'll hook it to my I'll hook it to here so it doesn't swing around. And I can just take it off and use it, and then and let it go. If I drop it or something, if the fish gets scared or something, then I can just drop it and it's still there. On the other side, I just have some extra tippet, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And that's what you add to your leader. And I have usually 3 different kinds. I have a 2X. Let's see. And we'll talk about this a little bit. A 2X, a 3X. You can see the 3, and then a 4X. And so a 4X is the lightest line you want to use on a smaller river. And so that's about a 6 pound. So if you're catching fish 12 to 14, you know, around there, that 6 pounds is going to be plenty, as long as it doesn't get under a tree and break off or something like that. So that's 4X is the last part of it that you'll do like on a dry fly, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then you can go up to 3X if you're nymphing, but a 4X is pretty much all around good. And I just have that on me or in my bag. And just so what happens is that leader starts out at 7 foot or 8 foot or 9 foot, and then you change flies, so you cut some off, you change flies, so you cut some off. So you want to add some tippet to that, so you don't get a 2 foot leader. You know, fishing with that, it won't work. You need the longer leader like it was. So you're always adding tippet to that fly end. Let's see. Pliers, Usland. Let's see. Any other questions that you guys have on gear and stuff? Just different things. Because some of you fished and know a little bit. I think trying to think anything else. If I missed anything.
You haven't mentioned fly vests.
Oh, yeah. Any type of, like, say, a fly vest. I started out and used for several years a fly vest. Has a lot of pockets. Anything that just has a lot of pockets. I like the shorter one, not the long one, because the one I like is the one that's
You just broke up.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if I broke up
a little bit. Yeah, could you just start over?
Okay. Yeah, just the fly vest is just you want to make sure it's not a solid cloth. You want the ones with the netting in it, and so it's a little cooler. And so you're usually out on the river when it's hot sometimes, and you want the coolest possible fly vest that you can have, so you're not just dying of heat if it's black. A tan one. There's black ones and stuff like that, but you want to stay away from any dark colors and any white ones. So anything of neutral color, green, tan, light brown. And then the only thing I would say on that, with your fly box in your pocket, just make sure your fly box is tied to a D-ring on your vest. And so if you pull it out, drop it just swing in there. You just put it back in. You're not trying to chase down a fly box that's floating down the river. Some downstream, somebody will probably go, "Oh, cool, a fly box. I'll use it," and they can't see you because it's a mile away. So they just got a whole bunch of flies.
Any brands you recommend there?
No, there
or adults?
You can buy like a Sims. You can go to any Sportsman's Paradise Sportsman's Warehouse, Smith & Edwards, Cow Ranch, and they'll just have a generic one. They're not any of them are pretty nice. They do the job. So basically anything will work that you may, try it on, see if you can move with it. Normally they're a little bit bigger. You don't want them tight because you might have a jacket underneath it if you're fishing when it's cooler weather, like a hoodie or something, or a raincoat. So make sure it gets a little bit bigger, not tight with just a regular shirt on. And so that really helps. Any other questions? Let's see. We'll talk about like nymphing, dry fly fishing on smaller streams. That's what I do. Say on the real small streams that are anywhere from, real shallow up to, 4 feet deep or something like that, or 4 or 5 feet across. I'll just dry fly all the time, just because it's fun, because you can't really nymph or streamer fish. You can, but it's a little tougher. And so we'll go over the flies, and I'll have a list for you. Even if you don't, if you miss the next class or something like that, I send all the information out to you anyway. So I just have a running list. And so that helps. And then let's see, let's look. Any other, what questions did you have about fishing then, or fly fishing? Is there any that we didn't mention that you needed some help with right off the bat? I'll see. Let's see.
Just the length of the rod for my son. He's 12. With the length of the rod, get a shorter rod for him.
Yeah.
You mentioned a 9-foot rod. That works as well.
Yeah, 9 foot is good. If you can find a 7.5 foot, that works even better. If you're, if you're smaller, then you can even use that. I use on the small rivers. I use a 7.5 foot for that one. The 9 foot is an all around size, so you can use it anywhere. But if you, for a smaller kid, a younger kid, a 7.5 would be perfect. And still you could probably go a 4 or 5 weight. And it depends on what you're fishing. If you're fishing bigger rivers all the time, then you want the biggest you can go, if you want a 5 for sure. If you're doing just small streams all the time, you could do a 4 or a 5 and be good. Right. The 5 is just something that you could use anywhere. You could even fish, on the Madison River, which is big. You catch big fish, you can do a 5, but a bigger rod helps just if there's wind or anything like that to help you. Let me show you this here. This is so they have fly floatant that usually comes in like a squish bottle or something like that, loon or gink, or there's several different kinds, but this mucilin, it's either green or red. But it's probably one of the best fly. If you put this on like an elk hair caddis or a royal wolf or anything with deer hair or any fly, it'll float better than anything. And you drag it underwater, catch a couple fish, you just kind of squish the water out, it'll pop right back up and do really well. So that's really the way to go on the fly floatant. When you're we're going to talk about building your own leaders. So basically you take, so you'll never have to buy one at the store again. I think they're about $4, $4.95 a liter, or maybe $3, but you can spend about $15 on getting different diameters of line, and you make your own leaders, and they're 10 times better than the regular ones. What a regular leader does, it is a leader that when you cast, it straightens all the way out straight as an arrow when it hits. And so when it hits the water, it automatically starts dragging the fly because you're not right in the same current that you cast in or standing in. You might stand in the bank, but the flies that you build in this leader, it tells you like, okay, get this diameter one. It's a 0.016 diameter. Get 20 inches of that, and then add 20 inches of 0.013 inches, and then tie it. And we'll talk about the blood knot. So basically in this leader book, it tells you, I'll show you a picture. So I'll show you, so this picture here, this is a regular tapered leader. Oh, right here. So if, it just straightens out, but the leader that you build kind of comes with S's. So when you cast it, it comes down really quiet, and then it has kind of S-turns in it. And so you'll get a lot longer drag-free drift. And that, I mean, you can fish circles around people that have the different, the straight leader. And so what you do is you spend $20 at the store to get the different diameters in the thing. And then you tie your own leaders. You can tie several of them. You could probably tie 40 or 50 and only cost you about $15. And so, and they're tons better. I wouldn't fish with anything else. And a lot of the clients that I have, they'd have the old ones or the straight ones, and I'd switch, and they couldn't believe how much more that fish they were catching because of that. And so that's really helpful. So that'll be in the leader book that I send you. And so that's really helpful. And it's fun to tie. And you can, for these little kids, a lot of times I've sold a lot of them. Like the kids can tie them if they get good at a blood knot, tie them and put them in a little Ziploc, put a card in there, put 7.5 foot or 9 foot 4X leader, and they can sell to their dad's buddies or something like that for $2 or $3 and make a little money. That's what I sold a lot of them out of where I worked up in Montana. And so, and they work way, way better. And there's a lot of things like that. So anything else? Let's see. Let me look at my. So you guys, have you learned something? If you learned, shake your head if you learned something today. But there's a lot of, it's kind of hard to learn. You can learn on here, but actually out on the river, you can learn quite a bit more. We're going to have videos next time, I think. I'm working on them this week. And then on Instagram, on that Utah or 4-H Shooting Sports USU, I'm going to put a lot of 1-minute videos that talk about all what we have done. And then it'll show you actually on the river about drag and how the fish takes it and how everything like that. So it's pretty funny out on the lawn when my boy is practicing casting, I'll grab the end of the line and say, okay, I'm the fish. And then because you can catch a fish, but playing the fish, and some of you know, is a whole different story if you play a fish. That just means bringing it in without just, like you've seen the bass fishing guys that they'll catch a fish and just reel it in 100 miles an hour, pick it up, drop it in the boat, and they never break off because they're using spider wire or really strong stuff. But on fly fishing, you got to be a little bit more finesse to bring a big fish in or even a small fish so you don't break it off. And so, and let's see. Always, suntan lotion is good. Lip stuff, your lips will get pretty dry. Always take water when you're out, and then always make sure you don't go fishing alone if you can help it. Just fish with a buddy. And let's see. I think that's about everything. Anything else? Any other questions?
Nash had a question in the chat.
Okay. Oh, let's see. A lot of different rivers. The Logan River, Blacksmith. You can go out to like different reservoirs in the shallows. They have bluegill, crappie. Nash, where are you from? Did you say? Delta. Any small stream, go to if you have a fishing store or a hunting store, any little small stream, and what happens is you just go out camping or something, or go to the river and just start fishing. If you catch a fish in a certain run, then they'd say, hey, well, I know where one fish is. So then you go up to the next one, catch another one, and then you go up to the next one, and then you learn where the fish are. And so you just, sometimes I walked a river for about an hour, about a mile before I walked the whole river. It was really shallow and it was too warm down low. So I walked about a mile up, didn't see a fish until I got to the very top part of it, and where it was colder, then I started catching fish. So you just kind of fish around, and we're going to talk about how to look for fish and where to find them. Normally in the water, unless they're flying fish. No. But any other questions? Let's see, Utah Mountains are. Yeah, Uinta Mountains, the lakes are really good. Any of those, if you can get on a float tube, or like a boat, and then fish out, that's good, or the bank, and that's really good. You can do a sinking line on lakes, but you can also do a floating line. But the floating line's a little, it's easier to cast. Sinking line's a little bit different. It's kind of like trolling. You just let some line out and just kind of kick and just kind of move your boat a little bit or whatever you're floating on, and then it just kind of like a trolling. But you can catch fish on the different lakes. I've hiked to quite a few lakes on Uintas. The best thing on Uintas, sometimes it's hard to cast because you got a bunch of trees behind you. So get you a spinning reel with a water bubble, put some water in it, tie your fly about 2 feet past it, and then just chuck that as far as you can go. You can cast a mile with those water bobbers. Put a fly like a woolly bugger or something, and then just reel in real slow. And we've done really well with that if you hike back in. And so that helps a ton. And then just go, ask your grandpa if they grew up there. Say, yeah, I used to fish that river over there or that stream. And then just make sure you got permission or if it's open, and then go fish it. And then you go see. So that's pretty fun. Any other questions? I think that's about everything. And like I say, on the Instagram, if you watch that, we'll just have all this stuff, and we're just going to talk about. So it'll be basically the same thing, but I'll be on Instagram, and I'll be talking about each of the items just in a minute video that you can go, oh, I remember he talked about chest, fly boxes that you hook to the, hook to yourself or stuff like that. So, or reels or lines or flies, and we'll get into all that. So, but I think the next Wednesday at 6:30 again on the 8th, we're going to talk about casting. And so that's the fun part. And if you get really good at that, so like you're not tying, you get really good at that, and you're casting, and you've got basically, you can catch fish. You can go out there and catch fish. If you don't know how to cast really good and you don't know your knots, you're going to get frustrated a little bit. You still do good, but it's just better if you can take those two things and get really good at them. And you can cast every day outside in your yard. I used to do it for a half hour at a time, just getting the feel of the rod, just to know how to do it better. Now I can cast, quite a long ways and are really accurate. You can hit. I always pick a flower or a dandelion out. No, my internet's going down, but pick a dandelion and then cast right to that. So like it acts like a fish. So, but it's pretty fun. So any other questions? I think we're just about getting about done. So, okay, you guys, I'll send you some information, and then I'll also, if you want to join next time or every time, I think there's at least 4 more. I think it goes to the 29th. So it's got the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. So there's quite a bit. And next time I'll be on casting. The other one will be on flies and knots, and then reading streams and different things like that. So I'll have some video. But it's sure a lot of fun. I've did it. Fly fish. I started when I was in high school. I think I was a freshman in high school, and then I got out in college, and I got a job up guiding. I made about $300 a day guiding people fishing. And then I tied, my job in high school was tying flies for rainy riding here in town. And I made about $15 an hour. So that was pretty good. And I went to school, came home, tied at night, and I did that. I did about 60 dozen flies a week. And they were hard ones, but you got good at it. And then you never have to, so if you can tie your own flies, that's fun too. So that kits you can buy for like $24, and just look online and start with an elk hair caddis and look online and go, oh, that's pretty easy to tie. And then just learn and tie it, tie 100,000 of those. And then by that time you'll be good at one. Maybe not 100,000. Maybe, I think after 20, you'd probably be okay. But my boy tied a fly the other day. I helped him. We went up and caught a fish the same evening, and on a tie a fly that he tied. So it was pretty. I think he's trying to think if I can. Let me open that up, and let me see if I can. Can you guys see that? That picture? Yeah. That's his first fly or first fish on a fly rod all by himself. And it's probably about 9 or 10 inches, but a little brown trout. And it was a lot of fun. And so we fished that day, and he says, okay, we're going back up tomorrow, right? And we did. We just had a fish that we caught there. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. You can catch those. And then we put them back in the river. The river that we fish doesn't have a lot of fish, but we don't take them. We'll go up to the lake if we catch a fish and go ahead and keep it, and if we want to eat it or something. But normally on the smaller streams, we'll just put them back, and then we can go back up and catch them again. So that way is really good. So, but anyway, okay. So between now and next Wednesday, if you get on Instagram, and then I'll just keep track of everybody who does that. If you just have a picture, even if you have not a fly rod, just your fishing rod, you're outside, just take a picture and put that on the Instagram and say, hey, I'm going fishing, or I'm learning how to fish. And then I'll put you in the drawing for a dozen flies out of this box. So I've got several dozen in there. So there's a lot of different flies in there. So some of those. So we're gonna have a drawing every time, and then if you're on the classes every time, so if you're on all 5 of them at the end, there'll be even a bigger kind of drawing. So just that'll be fun. Oh yeah, and I've got one more reel to show you. So here's a pretty good size reel that I showed you. Let me show you this one. This is the big one. This is the big reel. No, that's just one I carved out of wood. It doesn't work very well, but it's more of an anchor than anything. But it's one of the big reels. I just carved it out of just with the chainsaw. That's the chainsaw reel right there. I never use that one. It's hard to carry. But anyway, okay. All right. Hope you guys learned something, and then we'll end here. If you have any other questions right now, any other questions? Okay.
Thanks,
all right.
Blake.
Then, yeah. If you have any other questions, you have my email, and just email me anytime also. So if you think of something, what should I use, or is this a good fly, or is this a good rod, or this whatever, just let me know, and I'm happy to help you out. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.